In this video, I'm going to talk about some common concepts in CSS, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of review a bunch of stuff so that you aren't confused. So you should watch the other videos, but either way, I'm going to show you how to set things up from scratch because I know that it can be confusing. So first, I'm going to open my text editor and I'm going to create a new file and then I'm going to save this. And what I'm going to do, and if you've done this before, you don't have to do it again, but I'm going to go ahead and do this again so you can just see. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call this one example and then create it and put it on my desktop. You can put it wherever you want, but I'm going to put all of the files that I'm working with in this example folder. So I'm going to go ahead and call this index.html, and then I'm going to save it. I'm then going to go ahead and create my CSS file so that I know the name of it when I go ahead and link to it. So I'm going to do a new file, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it in this example folder. It's really important that it's in the same folder as the HTML file. And I'm going to call it style.css. And then I'm going to save it. Okay, let's go back to our HTML file. We know that we start our file off this way. And then we have HTML and end our HTML. And then we have our head, oops, and end our head. And then we have our body. And then we end our body. Okay, so as a refresher, things in the head are just for the browser to look at and get information from. They won't appear on your page. Things in the body will appear on your page for the most part. So what we're going to do now is, like we have been doing before, we're just going to go ahead and give this a title. So I'm just going to call mine example page. And then now this new thing that we're doing is that I'm going to add a link to my style sheet. And the way that I do that is this: make sure you're in the head, link, rel equals style sheet, type equals text CSS, and href, which is telling the browser where to find this file, is just style.css or whatever you named your CSS file. We don't have to put anything else because it's in the same folder as the HTML file. If it were in a different folder, we would have to direct the browser to that folder, but it's not. So I'll save that, and just to get things started, I'll go ahead and put a head on my page, and I will call this example page. Sorry, I'm putting a heading. And then I'll put maybe a little subhead that says this is an example. And then I'll go ahead and put, let's just do an image. And let's go on the internet and find an image. So how about a horned frog? And find the images. And this looks like a great horned frog. So I'm going to view the image, and then I'm just going to go ahead and save this image, and I'm going to put it in the same file. And I'm going to remember that this is what it's called. So I'll go ahead and copy that, put it in the same file as index and style. And then go ahead and put that link, and then I will go ahead and create a paragraph. And because I don't have any real content, but I would like to see what what my page would look like with content, I'm going to go ahead and get some lorem ipsum. And you can just Google that and you'll find a generator. I'll use this one, generate it, and then just copy a bunch of this text so that I have some kind of filler text to use. And go ahead and put that in here. Okay. So now I've saved that, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up in my browser so I can see the changes that I am making. So in Chrome, I can go to Open File, then I can go to my desktop, Example, and open my index. And there you have it. So now we are going to talk about how to apply style to this, because you can see that it just is the default style that the browser has. And we talked a little bit in the other videos about doing inline style, which is an option, but is not done a lot anymore, because now we have the far more efficient option of CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So you're mostly going to do that, but just to remind you what inline style is, it's when you put the style in the HTML itself. So for example, I might put style in here, style equals, and then I would put my property followed by the value. So let's just say I wanted the color to be blue, and then I end it with a semicolon, save it, and voila, it is blue. Or maybe I would want this H3 style equals color. And we talked in class about how typically you're not just going to write the color unless it's maybe like white or something. But even then you would probably use the hex code. So I have this nifty program called Color Snapper that I'm going to use, and it tells me the hex code of basically any color that I want. You can also look up just, hex codes, and it'll give you, whatever you click, it'll just give you a whole bunch of different colors, and you can decide if you want to use them. So you could just copy this code here, and maybe I'll just go ahead and do that. If I wanted to use my color snapper, maybe I had a page that I liked that had a color that I wanted to use. Then this is, I believe, just for Macs, but let's just say I don't know, really like this orange color here on this boot. I could pick the color and find it and click it, and then it gives me the hex code here, and it automatically copies it so that I can paste it. I'm going to go ahead and use the one that I already copied because I like that better. So I'm going to copy this value. That is my hex code, and I'm going to put it in here, save this file, and then we're going to see this change when I refresh, and it is a purple color. So that is how you do inline style. And now I'm going to show you how to do style by linking to a style sheet. So let's just say that I wanted all of my H3s to have this color, okay? So I would go in my style sheet and type H3 and then these curly brackets, and then I would put the color and the hex code. And now I save it. I don't even need this to be here anymore. And now every time I have an H3, so let's just go ahead and put it on the page another time. This is another example. Then I refresh, and that's still the purple color, and this is the purple color, and anytime I enter any H3, it'll become the purple color. Another thing I can do is say I wanted to have all of my images be the same size. I could put in image, and then I could make its width into, maybe I want them all to be 200 pixels wide. Then when I refresh this, my image is 200 pixels wide. So that is kind of basically how you do it. But what you're generally going to want to do is divide your content into containers where you can apply style to those containers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this here is my header. So I'm going to start my container and then give it an ID. An ID, again, is an identifier that you would use just one time. So you would not use this again in your in your HTML file. And you can actually give the ID any name you want. You're usually going to give it something descriptive. So I'm going to call mine header. You could call yours, you know, top if you wanted. That's fine. You just have to refer to that ID in your style sheet. So let's go ahead and call this header. And then I'm going to remember to end this container, because otherwise all of the style that I apply to this container will apply to everything after it if I don't close it. And then I just like to indent to show that this content is in this container. And another good practice is to put a comment here so that I know, because your HTML is going to get, you know, really busy and long, and it's going to be sometimes hard to find where a container ends, especially when different containers are inside other containers. So I'm going to put here end of header div. And that is how you do a comment. So you do this less than sign, the exclamation point, and the 2 dashes, and then you put your comment. And this will not show up, so I'll just save it so you can see. This doesn't show up on the page. It's a comment, so it's just kind of a note to yourself, which is really handy. Okay, so now I have this container with the ID header, and it contains these 2 things. And let's say I wanted a background on that. So I would go into my style sheet, and I would, this hashtag is used to refer to IDs. So if I have an ID and I want to identify it in the style sheet, I use this and then the name of the ID. So let's say I want the background color to be, let's give it that code. And now when I refresh, I have a light gray background on my header. So that is pretty convenient. If I want to, you know, I can add another container here. So let's say I'm going to do an ID here, and maybe this is my article. Except, you know what I'm actually going to do here? Let me step back, because I would probably have a lot of articles on this page. So maybe I would go ahead and give this a class of article, because then I can use this class again. Because if you identify your container with a class, you can use this class again. Best practice is, you know, you can use this class again. You typically do not use IDs again. So let's go ahead and end this container here, and then go ahead and indent so I can see where everything is, and then save it. Now you'll notice that, you know, we used a hashtag in the name here, and that's for an ID. It's a little bit different for a class. It's a dot and then the name of the class. So it's a dot, and then I had called this article. So I'll do article. And then I'll give this maybe a border. So border 1 pixel. It's going to be a solid border, and it's going to be black. And now when I refresh, I've got a border around just this section of the page. And if I created other articles, so let's just go ahead and copy this, and now I have a bunch of articles on the page. So I'll save that, refresh it, and then all of my articles have that exact same style, and I didn't have to enter style more than 1 time. I didn't have to enter it 3 times on all of these different articles. So that is pretty convenient. Now, let's say that I wanted, you know, something different to happen with one of these articles. Like I wanted them to mostly be the same, but I actually wanted this second one here to have a gray background. So what I can do there is I can actually add another class to it. So this is my second article, and maybe I'll give it another class. So I just put a space, and then maybe I'll give it a special class. And then go here and dot special. And it'll still have all of the properties that the article class had, but in addition, it'll have the properties that I give the special class. So background color, I'll do that light gray again. Refresh, and you can see that just this middle article has the background color of the light gray, but otherwise it's the same as the other ones. So something else that I can do is maybe I don't want this to be the full width of the page, because you can see that by default these articles take up the entire page. So let's say I only wanted the articles to take up, you know, maybe just as much as the width of this image, which I have at 200 pixels. So I can go back to the article and I can say width is 200 pixels. I'll refresh it, and my articles are now 200 pixels wide. So you can see here that they're one on top of the other. Maybe I want them to appear side to side. So one thing you can do in CSS is you can use the float property. And you can float things to the left or to the right. And that allows the container or whatever you apply the float to allow other things here. So you can see that even though this is only 200 pixels wide, it takes up all this space. So I have all this empty space here that isn't being used. So if I float my articles, and I'm going to float them to the left, then this will stay here, but it'll allow this to come up here and float next to it, and then allow this to float next to that. So if I refresh it, this was already here. I think there isn't room for it. There you go. So if you don't have room on your browser window, then you know that article will go away. But we have room if we make it a little bit wider. So now you have all these articles floating. And just to show you a little bit more about the float, I'm going to go ahead and make the images float in a way that you can kind of see a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this special article, and I am going to say that if I'm in the special container, the container with the class of special, and there's an image in it, I want the image to float left. Now, before I do that though, I just want to show you what it looks like if I don't float it. So first I'm going to make the special container, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. So I'm going to make the width 300, let's go 350 pixels. Okay, now I refresh that, and I've got this image here, but again, it's taking up this space here. If I float the image, it'll stay in the same place, but it'll allow the text to sort of fill in around it. So if I refresh, you can see the text filled in. If I instead floated it to the right, you can see that it goes to the right and lets the text fill in there. More concepts in CSS. I'm going to start showing you the box model. So if you need to take a break and go get a Coke, you might go ahead and do that now. Okay, so one of the cheat sheets I sent you last week had the box model on it. So it was the one that's at this site here. And this has just a really nice image of the box model that shows you the content, the padding, the border, and the margin. And I'm going to show you that now. But when you're getting started, it's very easy to get confused by the padding and margin especially. So this is a good thing to have on hand. Okay, so I'm going to start with this special section here. And I'm going to take this image because I already have some style for it, and I'm going to put a margin on it. The margin is the space between the content and the content that is surrounding it, or after it. So I'm going to put a margin of like 10 pixels on here. And what you're going to see, maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see, I'll do 20 pixels, is you're going to see space surrounding the image grow. So I'm going to refresh it, and now I have this margin around this image. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a border, because a border is going to appear around the image but before the margin. So I'll go ahead and put a border of 3 pixels solid black. So we'll refresh that, and you can see that there's now the image. It's surrounded by a border, and that's surrounded by a margin. The next property is going to be padding, and I'm going to go ahead and do that on this container here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead in this first container here and just get rid of the image, just to be able to better show you this example. And then in this article, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this last article as well. So in this article, I'm going to go ahead and give it a padding. Now, you know that since we're doing article, it'll actually apply to both of these articles. So I'm going to give it a padding of, let's go with 20 pixels again. Now, what that is going to do is it's going to put space before any content starts. So instead of having space between the content and the neighboring content, it's actually going to put space in the content itself. So let's go ahead and show that. Okay, so see, if we didn't have this padding here, I'm just going to show you without the padding. We have no space. You know, once we start this container, bam, our text starts. So if we wanted it to be a little bit more visually appealing, we would give it a little padding, like I had before. Save it, refresh, and we see that it has a padding. So now you can see that these two articles are squished up next to each other. So we would apply a margin, because we want to separate all of this content from all of this content. So we want to separate this whole container from this whole container. So on the article, we'll go ahead and give it a margin. So the margin is going to appear after the border, and the border appears after the padding. So let's give it a margin of 20 pixels. And what that does is puts a margin on every side, just like the padding did, just like the margin did here. I'll go ahead and refresh, and now you can see that we have space between each of the containers, and they're each surrounded by 20 pixels. So if you want to you know, have a different amount of padding or border or margin on each of the sides, you can do that too. So 20 pixels is actually the same as writing 20 pixels, 20 pixels, 20 pixels, 20 pixels. It means that on the top and on the right and on the bottom and on the left, it is all 20 pixels. So let's say that on the top, we actually wanted there to be a bit less space. So this is the top, so we could maybe change that to 5 pixels. And we're going to notice that the space here and the space here is going to shrink, because instead of being 20, it's now 5. Maybe with the padding, maybe we want there to be a little more on the top for whatever reason. So we could change the top to 40, but keep the rest at 20 pixels. You can see there's more on the top now, because there's 40 pixels on the top and 20 pixels on every other side of the padding. And the padding is right here. So if you want the top and the bottom to be the same and the left and the right to be the same, you can actually do that too. What this will do is make the top and the bottom 40 pixels and the left and the right 20 pixels. So if I save that, you'll notice that this is going to increase because this was already 40, and there it did. So back to the sheet, this kind of explains it. This explains it pretty well. So we have our content, which might be an image, which might be a container. Then we have padding, which is just space in that container to, you know, maybe white space or something. And then that would be surrounded by the border. And then after the border would be the margin. So this is a really good reference to keep in mind. I'm going to show you one last little trick here, and it uses margins, and it's something kind of handy to know. So what I'm going to do first over here is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this article just because we don't need it right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a container around this other article. So I'm going to put give it an ID of main content, and that will be just surrounding this container. And this is pretty common practice to put a container around kind of everything. I'll go ahead and indent this, and then okay, there we go. Then if I put any more content in here, I might, you know, put another article right here, but it would still be in this main content container. But for now, I just have this one article. So when I go to refresh it, you can see that it appears on the left, but it's still got its margin and its padding. It's got its border, it's got its margin. I'm going to go here, and since both article and special, those classes apply to this container here, I'm just going to get rid of the margin here, and I'm going to put a margin on here, and I'm going to and the reason I got rid of it here is just I don't want to deal with any conflicts, but let's say that I want no margin on the top and the bottom, but instead of having it to, maybe I don't want this to be on the left, and I don't even want it to be on the right, so I'm not going to float it. Let's say I always want it to be in the center, so always in the middle. There is an easy way to do that, and that is by using auto. So again, I'm going to create a margin that applies to this container, and I'm going to put 0 pixels for the top and the bottom. Let's just say I don't want a margin there, and then auto on the left and right. And when I refresh that, oh my gosh, why isn't this working? The reason that it is not working is because I still have a float on it. So sometimes you'll find that you have to troubleshoot. Take my float out. Now it goes in the center. So no matter how wide this is, that container is always in the center. And that is the end of this video.